I didn't expect Demidov to look so good so fast after getting a primary assist on the power play in his first KHL game. He then proceeds to make the defense and goalie look silly, and while he didn't score on one of the best goalies in the KHL, Ilya Nabokov, Demidov is showing exactly why he has such a high pedigree. Not just this, he was also the fastest skater on the ice in the entire game. We got to dive into this whole Demidov thing. Plus, a note on another KHL prospect, Bogdan Konyushkov, and while he was, this captaincy was taken away from him this year, but he was still called upon for a big role in his first game of the season. We also got a little note from TSN about Sidney Crosby, and, there's some interesting stuff to get into, all coming up on this episode of Habs Digest, and we're just going to jump straight into this, Jesse, as I'm going to turn that Demidov video off first. We're going to jump right into this. So, it won't happen. Crosby won't happen. But it's cool. I don't think it'll happen. But is it impossible? I don't know. I'm starting to question everything I know about everything. But these Crosby talks not only are stemming from us, it's stemming from places all over the internet, all over social media, all over sports media. And recently it was actually TSN, an article on TSN that I will link down below. Go check it out. Talking about an unlikely Sidney Crosby trade. And now this is Sidney Crosby's last year of his long 12-year contract. He'll be a free agent after this year. There's some talks about a trade. There's some talks about maybe free agency. But, he doesn't list Montreal as a front runner, Jesse, but he does say that, it's a downright dreamy, if unlikely scenario, though no team would benefit more from a rental of Crosby than the Canadiens, owing to their relative weakness down the middle. In the case of Montreal, Crosby's presence and the displacement of one top-9 center would mean a net improvement of 5 wins in the standings. That's exceptional. Again, I don't think it's likely. I don't think TSN thinks it's likely, but he is right in the sense that Montreal has some of the most to gain if this crazy trade were to ever happen.
Sidney Crosby is the golden goose for the Montreal Canadiens. Now, there's probably a good chance this isn't happening, right? But until there is that extension, that sign, until we know for sure, these rumors are just going to kind of persist, right? Because it is kind of dragging on a little bit longer than we expected. You'd have to feel like Crosby, like he would just want to do good by the Penguins in whatever type of situation. Maybe Dubas maybe wants the team to get a little bit younger at some point. We're seeing so many teams where they kind of want to retool on the fly instead of doing a rebuild, of kind of using whatever players they can to bring in some younger ones. I don't know about the trade option so much as maybe obviously the free agency would be the ideal situation. Of course, not very likely at all. But if it was to happen, just saying, Montreal would be at the top of Crosby's list.
Yeah, look, to be honest, as much as I'd love to see him in a Habs jersey, I would also love to see him retire a Penguin. It feels wrong to see him go anywhere else. I'm sure a lot of you guys in the comments probably think the same thing. No way he leaves. But hey, I don't know. His name's getting thrown out with Montreal Canadiens next to it more and more in media. So even though it's unlikely, it's still fun to talk about. So we're going to move on to some more serious stuff, though, Jesse. And I want to jump back into Bogdan Konyushkov. Now, he's back at it in the KHL. He was called upon a lot in his season opener, although he lost the captaincy, but there's some interesting stuff to dive into here. So there's another article about Bogdan that I'm going to link down below from Tout sur le hockey, and we're just going to get right into this. Let's just jump into some of the quotes from the article. In terms of total ice time, Konyushkov was only surpassed by Marcus Phillips and Slafkovsky, and Konyushkov was most frequently called upon from the bench when it came time to put a defenseman on the ice. This is from Mathieu Paradis' article, again linked down below. He also goes on to say that regarding the captaincy, Bogdan did wear it intermittently last year, but it was given to the KHL veteran Slafkovsky, and he does mention the history of domestic violence for Slafkovsky, but hey, like I said, it's maybe disregarded in Russia, but Jesse, still, they give the C to the veteran. Look, you can definitely disagree with that. However, the fact that Bogdan is still that go-to defenseman when they need one, he was still the captain intermittently last year. It's clear he still has a bit of a leadership role on this team. They rely on him a lot. It seems already early in this season that we're in for a very solid season from one of our more underrated prospects.
Yeah, absolutely. We got high hopes for this young player, right? You have to feel that maybe it's because he's North American bound at some point. We're hearing some rumors. Maybe that's why he's losing the seed. We know that at some point we want to have him Laval to kind of refine his game, but then get over to the NHL as well. But I mean, in his first game back from shoulder injury, he's looking great, being relied on. We know how much Igor Larionov loves him so much. And what's so nice about Konyushkov is he's a player that can play in so many different situations. He's on the PK. He's on the power play. Obviously, he's the third most time on ice for any defenseman. So, to be so young and then to be used so much in the KHL, which we don't see so much obviously Bogdan's continuing his remarkable career.
Yeah, there's this year in Russia is going to be really interesting for Habs prospects. Obviously because of a certain guy that we're going to talk about in just a minute, but also because of Bogdan, also because of Yevgeny Volokhin, and you know, Makar Hanin is still over there as well, Jesse. The Habs, one of the Habs 7th round picks this year. There's a lot of guys for us to follow, so just a little update on Bogdan and his status. And while it's probably not what we wanted to hear in terms of the captaincy, to hear that he's already being relied upon early, that's a good sign for things to come. But you know, Jesse, this video is about Demidov, so let's just jump straight into it. I mean, nah, he's just too good. I didn't know what to put for this title because that's basically how I feel. I'm going to play that highlight reel again. Oh my goodness gracious. Now, you know, he didn't get that much time on ice. Actually, before I played the highlight reel, I'm just going to show you a little stat here from the Habitant on Twitter. Good follow, by the way. Ivan Demidov today, 1 primary assist, 1 point, 3 shots, a hit, a takeaway. He was 14th on the team in time on ice with only 14 minutes, playing on the 3rd line with Evgeny Kuznetsov, Jesse. But he had the highest average skating speed among all players, below average NHL skating, by the way, and had the highest puck control distance among all players. I kid, of course, sort of. But let's just get into these highlights again. I mean, the assist was amazing. Look at this pick that he sets. That little pick on the player on Metallurg is enough to free him up for the goal. And look at this run here. Now, if that's not Ilya Nabokov in net, who is an absolute stud of a prospect. He was picked in the 2nd round this year. Holy crap, he's good. No relation to Evgeny, by the way. Just looking unreal, making the defense look absolutely silly. Like, it was like a hot knife through butter just then, Jesse. It almost looked too easy for Demidov, which I don't even know if I want to say it impresses me or what, but that's one thing that all the best players in the world have in common. They make the game almost look too easy. You look like, well, that didn't even look fast. How did he do that? That's exactly that characteristic that Demidov is showing in game 1 of his professional career.
And also the intelligence and the creativity. He was branded by Vincent Lecavalier from our organization as the most intelligent player in this draft, and he's showing it. His first KHL game, it's important to see how is he going to react when the level of competition is even better. Well, first of all, he's really the playmaker on this entire one, not only setting it up, but kind of creating that space on the ice, which is totally loud, totally part of the game today. But that self-pass to himself as he's coming in the zone, like this guy loves to have the puck on his stick, and he's creative to get it right back to him. Like going hard to the paint there. Really like to see him carrying that puck, looking so dangerous. You know he's going to be converting on those opportunities, but just to be creating like these highlight reels so early on in his career, just looking absolutely electric out there at this higher level, starting the KHL. I mean, just amazing stuff from Demidov is just continuing here today.
I mean, he's on point per game pace. I'm just saying, you know, he's on, 68 point pace. I think it's a 68 game season. I also had Nail Yakupov's on 68 goal pace because he scored in his first game for Kunlun. So that's interesting. After seeing some of the names, did you see Nikolai Kulemin was offered a PTO today? That was a throwback. So I had me looking at other players like Yakupov is out there doing anyway, so I'm not going to get into that today. But that's the thing, Jesse, with Demidov, like, you know, we saw in that, not even preseason, that kind of scrimmage with his team. He was on a line with Kuznetsov and Rottenberg, and it looked like him and Kuzi had a bit of nice chemistry together. And apparently Kuznetsov is a very good locker room presence, good for teaching a guy like Demidov, and it seems like the whole team wants him to learn. And, you know, don't forget, Michkov did not get very much time on ice when he started in his draft plus 1 year. And we're seeing Demidov 14 minutes. It's nothing to scoff at, especially when you're playing alongside the captain in Kuznetsov, which I don't know if you guys knew that. Like, giving him this opportunity to play with an NHL veteran, to really hone his skills, getting 14 minutes in his first ever game, playing on the power play, getting an assist, making the defense look silly, and being the fastest guy out there, Jesse. I don't even know if there's anything I could have, I guess the only thing I could have wished for more is a goal. But I mean, honestly, this whole body of work in this game is what made me maybe most impressed, just how calm, cool, and collected he looked at the professional level. That gap from MHL to KHL, like, I didn't see it, at least not in game 1.
Absolutely. And the fact that he was doing all the details right, he's back checking, he's showing his motor, his compete. But again, like playing with Kuznetsov, you know, history aside, is like this is an NHL level player. So it's so important for him to kind of play with somebody who's been at that level, because that style of play is still there. And so important for Demidov to be able to kind of incorporate playing with a player that has played in the NHL while still getting his reps in the KHL where he needs, getting his ice time, showing up in the way that he has. Like, you can't really draw it up as a better situation than this.
I'm pumped. I think you guys are pumped too. These highlights are crazy. I mean, look, every single time there's a Demidov game, you know you're getting some highlights, right? And by the way, the source for all those highlights will also be linked down below. There's a couple sources that I pulled from on Twitter. Feel free to go credit them, like, save, retweet the original tweets and stuff, because there's going to be a lot of great KHL stuff coming out on Twitter. But my gosh, it's unbelievable. Let us know what you think about this whole Demidov thing and Bogdan and everything else else we talked about in this video, because that'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe. We just hit 14K, which is insane. We're pushing for 15,000 before the start of the season, so if for some reason you're still watching at this point in the video, yes, you who maybe clicked away from this tab, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, because we want to hit to that 15K, and I know that you don't want to miss the latest Habs news. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.